All right, guys. Healthy Habits Challenge 2025. Thank you all so much for coming and joining in with us. This is the third year that we've done this. Each year we tweak it, we refine it a little bit. But the main point of this is to show, like, if you focus on these habits, you'll get kind of the body composition that you're looking for. You'll see fat loss, muscle gain. Instead of thinking about like these fad diets, right? Like keto, carb cycling, carnivore. These are all things that do work for some people. They have worked. I'm not bashing those diets. But the extreme diet usually is something that's unsustainable for most people, because everyone in this room, including me and Carrie and everybody else, we got husbands, wives, kids, there's birthday parties. You should be able to have like a donut or a piece of cake every once in a while and make it part of your regular life. And you shouldn't have to work out 7 days a week to get the goal that you're looking for. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? And I see a lot of you guys I've sat down with in a consult and I've told you that exact thing, and I want to kind of have the education for you guys moving forward to reference for the next 6 weeks. And even when you get done with the next 6 weeks, I want you to have pieces that you can build on for the next year, 2 years, and 3 years. And without the education part of it, it's just a 6-week challenge. Does that make sense? So this is the education part. If you have questions, you can ask during the middle of it. I would ask that maybe most of them are saved at the end, because me, Taylor, Adam, and Carrie all just want to kind of round table, have a seat, and answer that with you guys. Cool? So if you have a question, maybe put it in the notebook. If it's pertinent to that moment right there, feel free to just pull your hand up and say, hey, I got a question about this. Cool? All right. So a couple things on this. It starts on 2/23, which is going to be on Sunday. It's 6 weeks. It ends April 6th. Completing the challenge checklist. Has everyone seen one of those yet? Am I seeing a challenge checklist? Cool. And if you haven't, you're like, dude, I don't even know what that is. If you want to do this, you can hang out with one of your coaches afterwards and we'll get you set up on it. Initial in-body scans. I know most of the people in the room have already done that. There's a before, there's an after. You don't have to do an in-body scan, but I recommend it so you can see what actually changes during those 6 weeks. It won't be dramatic, but if there's a couple of pounds here and a little bit of body fat, you know you're going the right direction. Cool. Final in-body scans will be the week after. The main thing is there's this journal that's built out for you. So the coach sets out a precedence of what to do, and then all you're doing every day is going, did I do that or not? And you check it or exit. Because who's ever done a journal where you're like, I don't know how to count calories, or Adam wants me to tell me how much protein I had today. Do I show him a picture and say this much? Or do I say how many grams? This breaks it down to make it easy, where you and your coach discuss everything beforehand, and then you're just checking or Xing every single day on your journal. And then each week, you could take a picture of that journal and either send it to your coach or use your personal training time to sit down with them and go over it more. Cool? Okay, so what's the mission? We're trying to create discipline of healthy, sustainable habits inside and outside of the gym that lead to body fat loss, lean muscle gain, and body composition change. Health metrics improvements, also triglycerides, A1C, cholesterol, and other measures of metabolic health. Let's be honest, we all want to look good in a bathing suit, right? That's part of the reason we're here. But at the same time, your overall health and your metrics and your lab work that's your longevity. That's the long term, right? Food is the most powerful contributor to your health, performance, and body composition. So if you look at the base of that pyramid, guys, I've been a trainer for 15 years. I had a gym in the beginning where nutrition wasn't a big focus, and it was really hard for people to get some of the goals that they wanted. Like, they really struggled losing body fat. They gained muscle, but struggling getting exactly what they wanted out of the gym because nutrition wasn't at the base of the pyramid. So nutrition is number one. We're going to go over that a lot. Carrie's going to talk a ton about it too. She does a lot. Metabolic conditioning is number two. Metabolic conditioning is like, when we say 3, 2, 1, go, and you guys do a HIIT workout for about 10, 15, 20 minutes in here. It's the third stage of our hour workouts we do in the gym. That's metabolic conditioning. You're getting strength, you're getting cardio, you're getting stamina. It's all built into this 10, 15, 20-minute workout. Cool, so that's really important. It's number two. Gymnastics is number three. Gymnastics basically just means moving your body in space. So the ability to control, do a pull-up, to do a push-up, these things are pretty important. Weightlifting and throwing, we don't throw a whole lot, but we do lift weights. We throw weights around. And at the very top, it's kind of hard to see, is sport. Sport's a really broad general term. Sport could literally be, when I get done working out, I go over in my yard and I do yard work. I can do that all day and feel good. Sport could be literally throwing a ball with your kid out in the yard. That's what I mean by sport. I don't expect anybody in here to be like competitive athletes or anything like that. I'm not either at my age. The case for skeletal muscle mass, focus on healthy muscle and more muscle, not lower weight. So with more muscle, cellular health is improved, metabolic health is improved, it's easier to lose fat and keep it off, able to consume more calories, and aesthetic, strong, fit, and healthy. Improves your lifespan and your quality of life. So I think all of our coaches talk to you guys about this. If you've done an in-body with us, we love seeing skeletal muscle mass go up, because if muscle mass goes up, you're a more efficient burner of calories. If you have more muscle, you can burn fat easier than someone with less muscles. You want muscle, right? It's a big part of it, especially for longevity. Nutritional framework, eat mostly whole foods, minimize processed food, eat 3 to 5 times per day. Balance protein, carbs, fat at every meal. Carrie's gonna talk to you guys more about how to balance the amounts. Eat enough calories to fuel exercise and recovery. Keep intake consistent. Consistency is everything with this stuff. Okay, so 2 main things with nutrition, and I'm only gonna talk about quality. Carrie's gonna come up next to talk about quantity. Quality is whole, this is the most key thing. If you wanna put a note on this, this is the part to just zone in on. Quality of food, what does that even mean? Whole foods that are minimal processing as close to its original state as possible. That's the definition of a whole food, right? So if I take a potato out of the ground, I wash it, right? I cut it up, heat it in the oven, I put some salt and pepper on it, and I eat it. That's a pretty whole food, because from the time it came out of the ground to the time it went inside of my body, there wasn't a whole lot of changes. Does that make sense? Let me give you a more extreme version of a potato that's not. How about you take that potato and you go get it, and you get it from French fries at Whataburger. I've had those. I've had them recently, right? Those have gone through a lot of other stages and a lot of other chemicals added into it. The more we do that, the more we suck out the nutrients of it, the less valuable of a food it becomes, and the less whole food it becomes. So it's really this judgment thing. You have to look at food and go, is it processed? Is it ultra processed? Or is it minimally processed, or none? So an extreme example of that would probably be like a potato chip, right? Like a Dorito. I mean, that originally came from a potato, but if you look on the back of the ingredients list for those Doritos, what does the ingredients list look like? It's long. Does that make sense? And the reason it's long is because from the time it was a potato to where it got to now, a lot of chemical changes has happened to that. So this concept of whole foods versus highly processed foods is crucial. It's more important than calories. Calories are super important. You got to have the right amount of energy in your body. They're really important. But this is more important. This is the base. Cool? Quantity, plate, hand, or macro method. Carrie's going to go over the different methods on how much potato do I get? How much protein do I get?
So let's talk about the different methods here. What is this on? Quality. Here we go. Wait, am I going backwards?
I think you jumped ahead. That's okay. You just got to pick it up.
This is where it was.
This is where you're at. You just.
Okay.
Yeah, you were 1 slide ahead. It's okay. Take over. Do that slide. So go to the next one. I got you, my friend.
Sorry, guys. Okay.
This is the next slide. Press the arrow.
Which is quality, which is what you went over. I go over quantity.
Right. You're early, but that's okay.
Okay. So he talked earlier about avoiding fad diets. So keto, all of that stuff. What we're trying to do is just try to make sure we eat a balanced meals for most times. Carbs are not bad. Fat's not bad. Meat is not bad. Veggies are not bad. So basically making sure we're getting a balanced meal with the quantity of it. I'm very confused here. Here we go. Is this where I'm supposed to be at?
You came up early and you started before you're supposed to.
Okay.
So you're on quality.
Okay.
You did this, which is, so go here.
Okay.
And then just go in here. You're just a little bit early.
All right. There we go. So we're going to start with quality, not quantity. I apologize. So he explained to you about the idea of what a whole food is versus a processed food. And then the next concept that we're going to discuss about the quality of food is how to shop in the grocery store. So most of us shop probably H-E-B or Walmart around here. And so when you go into the store and you're starting to navigate around, what's the first thing you come to? Veggies, right? Yeah, so we make the corner around veggies, and then what's kind of the next area we hit? Meat. Yep, and then we're still going around the outside of the store. What's the next area? Dairy, and then we're out the door, right? So for the most part, if we shop the perimeter of the grocery store, we're going to hit the quality foods that we need to. Of course, there's stuff up and down the aisles that we need, like the baking aisle or the spice aisle, but for the most part, the things you find up and down the aisle, it's going to be highly processed stuff. So when you're making your grocery list, you're making your meal plans for the week, you want to kind of avoid the aisles, because that's where we get into trouble. That's where all the tasty stuff is, right? So the more that we can eat from the perimeter of the grocery store, the better we're going to do. Relying on food prep. So that's part of y'all's homework every week is a weekly meal prep. Who here has done meal prep before? Who here has not done meal prep before? Okay. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Chris and I do meal prep differently. He preps all of his lunches for the week. He's done this since I've known him. I mean, every Sunday it's religious. He's prepping every single lunch. I like to go home and make my lunch every day. So we do food prep differently. What I have at the house is just things that are available for me to make my lunch. So I have a protein, I have my carbs, I have my veggies, and I can kind of play Tetris and pull my food out. That's my version of meal prep. You've got to kind of figure out what's going to work for you. I have a lot of clients who do crock pots on Sunday. They have 2 or 3 crock pots going, making different meals so that they can use those during the week. So it's whatever works for you and your schedule and your family. And I have a lot of clients who don't meal prep breakfast, but they eat the same thing every day, which means they've got everything they need for the week to make sure that they can get their breakfast done. So that's about the food prep part. Things to avoid, and that's what your guys are going to do when you do your kitchen makeover. We're going to kind of go through the house and kind of look around in the cabinets and the pantries and kind of see, all right, let's look at the labels. Does it have high fructose corn syrup? We kind of want to stay away from that, okay? That doesn't mean throw everything in your house away, but just be mindful when you're flipping labels over and reading. Next to that is sucrose, which is going to be another sugar. Anything that ends in that OSC on the back of the label is going to be some type of a sugar, dextrose, sucrose, those type of things. And then when we're looking at oils, we got palm oil, canola oil, soybean oil. It's not saying that those are the worst things ever. We just want to stay away from things that are like hydrogenated and kind of pull back into things that are going to be more like your extra virgin olive oils, your avocado oils, coconut oils, things like that. Sugars, nitrates, and nitrites, you're going to find those in foods that have been like your meats that are cured for the most part. So just paying attention to when you're buying sandwich meat or deli meat or anything that's like sausage, just paying attention to how they're curing the food. And then lastly, refined grains like white and processed soybean and corn. So when you are buying breads or pastas or things like that, flip that label over. Is it just corn? Is it just, wheat? That should only be the only thing in your pasta. It shouldn't be all these other things that are added to it. So just making sure that the food is not highly processed. Okay, so going back to now, we've done quality, and we're talking about the quantity of the food. This is a typical yo-yo diet, and I was guilty of this for a very long time. So if you can't read the board, I'll just kind of read it to you real quick. Starting off Monday, low calorie, 1,200, Tuesday 11, 13 on Wednesday, maybe 1,700 calories on Thursday, and then what happens on the weekends? It's party time. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we get crazy with it, and we overeat, overconsume, and then we start right back on Monday, because that's what everybody does. They wait till Monday to start back over. And so when you're doing this typical yo-yo dieting, we typically consume more calories than if we would just kind of balance them out during the week, okay? And so instead of going low, 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 low and restricting and then going crazy on the weekends, we're going to moderate during the week now. And so we don't have these big up and downs, these big yo-yos. So more sustainable would be when you're going to work with your coach on this, trying to figure out what calories or what quantities or what plates should look like through the week. The goal now is to try to maintain that during the whole week. Now that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. My birthday's tomorrow, we're going to have a good time, right? But for the most part, the more consistent, and I think Chris said that earlier, consistency is key. The more consistent you are during the week, the less you're going to be off on your total numbers for the end of the week. Okay, so this is going back to plate, hand, and macro counting. So the plate method, if you are new to eating or changing the way that you're eating, the plate method is going to be the most beneficial. What that's going to look like for you is going to be different than everybody else. So your plate is going to be based on your needs, and your coach is going to run your food for you, right? So how many vegetables should you be eating, how much protein you should be eating, how many carbs, and how many fats. FDA has changed the food pyramid over the last 20, 30 years. And so we're getting away from that real heavy, refined carbohydrate at the bottom base, which it used to be with the breads and cereals. I think Kellogg's probably bought the FDA and said, hey, let's make the food pyramid look like this. And we're kind of changing it and flipping it over. So we're going to be really focused on protein, especially for women, and vegetables for most people, okay? And then the carbs and fats will follow with that. The hand method is learning how to use your hands to kind of look at your plate and be like, okay, do I have enough of everything? Because macro counting requires you to weigh and measure your food. You cannot show up to the restaurant with a measuring tool. You will look like a fool, right? You're not going to weigh your food at the restaurant. So we can go over real quick the hand method. So everybody hold their hand up. Okay, your palm, not your fingers, but your palm. For most people, the thickness and the width that's about how much protein you should be having per serving. Not per meal, but per serving. For me, I need 2. I do 2 servings of protein per meal. Okay, so if you're thinking about chicken breast or anything like that, that's kind of what you're looking at is your palm size. And the next one's going to be vegetables. So everybody make a fist. It's about a cup-ish. So if you're doing like broccoli, that really holds its weight well, but when you're thinking about things like spinach and you go to cook them down, what happens to a handful of spinach? It turns into nothing, right? So that's cooked veggies, okay? So keep that in mind, okay? About a cup, about a fistful. And this is where we got to really be careful. We're talking about carbs now. So cup your hand like this. This is your carbohydrate. So this is your rice, your potatoes, all that fun stuff. It's not falling out of the hand. It's what you can hold in your hand. It's going to be the measurement of that. And the saddest thing of all are fats. Those are your thumbs, literally. Like, this is a serving of olive oil. This is a serving of cheese. This is your servings if you're using the hand method for the next 6 weeks, okay? We tend to overeat fats really easily because A, they're delicious, but B, we have to be careful because they have twice as many calories in them. Okay, so a protein and a carb, they have 4 calories each for each gram, but fats have 9, okay? And so when we're trying to watch what we're eating or we're trying to pay attention to that, we tend to overdo it, and we can accidentally do it with things like salads. That tends to be the biggest overdoer of fats because we have this big, beautiful plate of vegetables, we've got protein on there, we may have some chips or something on the side for some carbs or beans or something like that, and then we douse it in dressing and then cheese and then bacon, and the next thing you know, we've gone from a normal serving of fats, which for most people is probably going to be somewhere between 1 and 3 per meal, to like 6 or 7. Okay, and we've just doubled the calories that we're having in that. And then lastly, macro counting. Who's going to be macro counting? A few of us are going to be macros. Okay, so macros are the most time consuming. They do require a lot of work. The only thing I really want you to pay attention to is going to be when you're doing your proteins. Because when you're macro counting, some foods are done pre-cooked and some are done post-cooked. So if you're thinking about like turkey or ground meat when you're cooking it down, it's going to be about 75% once it's cooked when you weigh it out on your scale, okay? So just be really, really careful when you're doing protein if you're doing macro counting. And if you have any questions specifically afterwards, just talk to me. I'll be happy to help you with that. Okay, so plate method, we kind of went over that. The other thing that's nice about the plate method, it kind of helps you remind you when you're eating to stop at about 80% full. So just because your coach is like, hey, this is what your plate should look like, and you go to eat and you get halfway through your plate and you're like, I'm stuffed, please listen to your bodies. There's no reason to continue to eat to overeat. But just be mindful of that. You want to eat till you're about 80% full. You don't want to wait until you're 150% full before you realize it and you've overeaten. Again, we've talked about the whole foods, organic when possible, and then your coach is going to send you a 17-page nutrition document. Okay? On page 4 is going to be your numbers or what your plate should look like. The same thing is going to be on the hand method. So my hand method quantities are different than Chris's. They're different than Carla's. Everybody's hand method is different based on your goals over the next 6 weeks. So again, that's going to be on page 4 of your sheet. And then if you're weighing and measuring, same thing, your numbers will be on that same page. Dun, dun, dun. Has anybody gotten their document yet from their coach? Yeah? Okay. So this is what you're going to be looking at. It's really, really hard to see. But for this person, their goal is to get 5 portions of protein or 158 grams per day. This person is eating 3 meals a day. So that's another thing you can talk to your coach. Whether or not you eat 3 meals or you do 3 meals and 2 snacks, it's based on what you do, right? I'm a 3-meal person. And then their goal is 4 to 6 servings of veggies, 183 carbs, and 82 grams of fats per day. And it's going to break it down per meal. So if you're on a 2-meal plan or if you're on a 4-meal plan, it's going to break those numbers down for you, okay?
Right. So fast food and restaurants. You know, I know it's, you know, the idea is we want to end up meal prepping and we want to end up prepping all of our food and having everything perfectly set. But we live in Southeast Texas. There's not a whole lot to do. Everything that we celebrate is always at a fast food place or a restaurant place, correct? So we'll go through and we'll kind of show some examples and we'll think about how to practically eat there and put our quantity methods into play whenever we are at these different places. Kind of a biased plug to start off with is Red Apron. No alliances whatsoever. Think about Red Apron, right? It kind of makes it easy for you on a lot of those meals because even if we're not tracking macros, it does have your macros on the things, right? So it's pretty convenient and you don't have to cook it, right? So it's super quick. One of the things I want you to think about with Red Apron though, like you look at the macros and you think about the quantity that you need of certain foods, right? Some of them have 60 grams of carbs, some of them have 40 grams of fats, some of them, you know, most of them are biased towards protein, which is a great thing because, you know, that's one of the main focuses on our goals, right? Some of them are lacking vegetables, like the burrito bowls are a good example. The burrito bowls over there are, you know, about 40 grams of protein, 40 grams of carbs. Fats are low, but we think about proteins, fats, carbs. One thing we're missing on our plate is vegetables, right? So one of the things that makes it super convenient, you want to think about practicality. I've seen Chris do it, Carrie do it, all of us coaches have done it before. If we have our proteins and carbs and we have our fats where we want them, just grab a bag of vegetables, man. So a bag of spinach, throw a handful of spinach, mix it in there, some lettuce or something, or a side salad on the side with your meals, right? That way you're hitting all your quantity goals. You could go through the list. I mean, you can make everything exactly how you want to. Saltgrass is one of those places. Things get really weird there because they also have these big fried chicken plates with mashed potatoes and macaroni and rice all combined on one plate, right? And the plates are this big. So if you're one of those people that's thinking about hand methods too, you're looking at carbs on the plate and you got mashed potatoes, you got macaroni and cheese, and you have rice on one plate. You're like, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? There's 5 cupped handfuls of carbs on there, right? So, man, maybe I want to eat some of this and have leftovers. You know, it's okay to do that. You know, I know happy plates are a real thing too. We want to finish our entire plate, but maybe let's take a step back and be like, man, that's enough for me to have 2 meals on this one, right? Buc-ee's is another great option. Oh man, don't even get me started on Buc-ee's. They got fudge, they got beef jerky, they got all the things that taste super, super great. But let's be real, we're on the go, and we still want to hit our goals, right? So that's something we need to focus on when we're there too. Chris is a great example of this. I know every time Chris goes to Buc-ee's, he gets a pulled pork sandwich, and he gets some sort of a vegetable on the side too, whether it's a side salad or something like that, because it's super convenient, but guess what? It still tastes good, right? He still wants to have the pulled pork sandwich and still enjoy that, but you know, he's getting his proteins, a little bit of fats from the pork and the carbs from the bread, but he's like, I'm missing vegetables, so boom, side salad, right? Basically, the moral of the story is whenever we're going to eat out, pick a protein. It's pretty easy to find chicken, turkey, something like that on the plate. Build around that, right? Whenever you're going to pick your sides, because most places allow you to pick your sides, right? Kitchen makeover. Man, I'm going to call some of you guys out right here. We're going to talk about this one, but it's going to be okay. I'm not going to be a jerk. So, kitchen makeover. Here's the thing that we need to talk about, right? Whenever we go home, I know most of us have Oreos, cookies, some ice cream, some stuff sitting in the freezers or the pantries, right? Step one for you guys and your family, just take that crap, throw it away, right? You don't need it in the house, right? I hear a lot of good excuses, and they are good excuses. I hate wasting food. I spent money on it. It was special to me. It was on a holiday that I got all this Halloween candy. Well, guess what? It's February. We still have Halloween candy at the house. Get rid of it, right? You haven't been eating it, and if you do, it's just sitting there, so it's always in temptation. Here's another one. My kids love it, right? That's one of those things. I know it's hard because your kiddos probably do love Oreos. Guess what? So do I, and so do you, right? You don't need it, right? Because here's the thing that I want to think about when a kitchen makeover. Let's be real for a second. If there's Oreos in the pantry, nobody in here is eating 1 or 2, right? We go to eat 1 or 2, then guess what? A sleeve's gone. That's pretty weird how that works. So The best bet for you to do is just take all that stuff, start off like, this is important for you, right? This is your priority, but at the same time, it's also in the best interest of your family too, right? You wouldn't want your kiddos eating the same crap or having to deal with the same stuff later on, right? That's kind of the thing that I want you to think about. So go on a little purge right there. Here's some steps on how to do it. Basically just how we talked about. All the chips, the Coca-Colas, all that stuff can just hit the dumpster, right? So kind of works out. We'll restock it. You know, there's definitely different options. I don't want you to completely eliminate everything, but let's have some options. That way we make better choices too, because what is around you is what you're gonna tend to go towards, right? Be strategic on how you go grocery shopping, right? Whenever we go to the grocery store, just like Carrie was talking about earlier, we make the perimeter, we're gonna make better choices. We start going up and down the aisles, guess what? I'll throw some crackers and some cookies in there, right? It's just something that you wanna be strategic about. Go in there, get what you need, get out, right? And then, of course, have your meal prep bowls and things like that. Meal prep. So, you know, there's some different ways of going about it. I know a lot of you work like Monday through Friday, so it's pretty convenient to do things on Sunday, right? So grab your food, go to the grocery store with your plan that you want to get, and think about all the things, the proteins, the fats, the carbs, the vegetables, and shop accordingly. You want to be able to pick three, which we'll talk about the pick three method here in a minute. But look ahead, think about it like you're doing work or something like that too. Like, okay, I'm going to the store with a plan, right? I'm not just gonna be like, well, I need groceries, I'm just gonna grab whatever I see. You know, that's where mistake number one happens. Spend your time, cook your food, prep your food. You know, there's also different things that we've talked about. Like, Chris is one of those guys that can prep his whole food for the week on Sundays, and it's no big deal. Carrie talked about, man, I wanna have something I can just throw together real quick, right? So I've seen her have different things like adult Lunchables, right? So that's something that works. So have some stuff in the fridge that you could be like, okay, I'm gonna take a little bit of this, throw it all in a bowl, and then make it a lot more convenient for yourself. All right, I know most of you have seen this, right? So it's our Precision Nutrition little food packet that we sent. It's down there like page something on there, but it's towards the bottom. So there's green lights, yellow lights, and red lights that we've talked about with the proteins, fats, and carbs, right? We can all agree that a good protein would be chicken, wild game, like deer meat or something like that. Those are minimally processed, right? When you start thinking about Whataburger patties, when we start thinking about chicken tenders, all those things that have been highly, highly processed, things that you definitely want to stay more away from, eat a whole lot less of those than you do your grilled chickens and things like that, right? So if you haven't got with your coach already on this thing and had your Precision Nutrition thing set up, go through and look at these things. This is super convenient when it comes to grocery shopping. So I'm gonna give you guys a good example on how this would be useful whenever you go shop. So there's always a eat more, eat some, and eat less of proteins, fats, and carbs. Kind of put everything together to make it pretty easy for you. All I would think about is, hey, I'm gonna pick 3 good proteins. I'm gonna pick 3 good carbs, I'm gonna pick 3 good fats. Vegetables, you could pick 3 of those as well, and then you have everything else that you get. But if you pick 3 of each of these, it kind of makes it easier to kind of put some meals together from there. Like for instance, I will use the kind of basic holy grail. If I was to pick some chicken out of the protein, I'm gonna pick some rice out of the carbs, and I'll pick some nuts and seeds to throw on the side of it, right? That's an option, and I'll throw some vegetables in as well. Here's some examples of what a grocery store trip should look like, ideally, right? So we have some ground bison right here, which is great. It's minimally processed. It's one of those green light proteins. You have your chicken breast, your eggs, your egg whites, and your yogurt. Those are all things that have been like minimally processed, right? Then there's some convenience things in there too. We have protein powder, we have protein bars, we have whatever that is, a Perfect Bar, I've never heard of that. But those are all things that, hey, on a pinch, you definitely want to have access to that, right? Because it's not always the most convenient to either cook your chicken or cook your bison, or we have jobs or we have long hours, right? So sometimes there is some convenience to that, right? So there is some good proteins in there. As far as carbs, you got your fruits, you got your potatoes, you got your berries and nuts and seeds, or not your nuts and seeds, but your rice and your oats, right? So those are all good carbs that we want to basically maintain around. So if I go back and forth, I think about some chicken, and I'll throw it with some rice on the side, and I'll have, Some bread is an option for a good carb too, right? And then last, fats. These are most of the things that we cook with. So your oils, your peanut butters, your all those good things, your butters, all those, your cheeses, those are all going to be really, really good things to throw in for your fats. But again, on these, when we're cooking with these, we're thinking about our thumbs, right? Not big handfuls of fats, because that's where it gets really, really tricky. Vegetables, of course, you guys know vegetables. You can't overdose on vegetables. I say eat all the vegetables you want to if you're one of those people that can and enjoys doing it. You got your bell peppers and your broccoli slaw and your spinach, I assume, back there. Okay, this is what I was talking about on 3-per shopping list. I'm one of those people, if I go in the grocery store and I don't have a plan, I'm going to be buying everything that I see, right? To kind of make things a little bit more convenient, it'd be worth some time to either get with your coach or think about those things on those slides that were the eat more list, right? Pick 3 proteins, pick 3 carbs, fats, veggies. And then there's everything else. There is some snacks. We do have kiddos. We do have spouses that like snacks, right? So throw some everything else in there as well. But this is going to be A, first of all, time efficient, B, cost efficient, right? That's a big thing for me. I've been a college kid for the past 4 or 5 years. I definitely want to save some, right? You think that until you're strategic about making your grocery plan, right? So I guarantee you, if we go with this, you kind of have some meals kind of pre-planned together right there when you're thinking about it going through the grocery store.
Okay, now talking about supplements, hydration, sleep, and alcohol. These are some of the fun things, and these are some of the things like we don't commonly talk about or we don't know a whole lot about. So supplements. There's so many different factors in our environments and sleep quality, things like that might affect how do we need supplements? Do we need supplements? What are some of the most beneficial ones? And what are some of the ones we might need to steer away from? Starting with fish oil. Fish oil has a large amount of healthy omega-3 fats in it. This helps with the inflammation in your body. It helps with your sleep quality. It helps with your gut health, your bone health, your blood, brain health, all different kinds of good stuff. So if you find that you have a lot of inflammation in your body, fish oil might be one of those things that benefits you. And honestly, for a lot of people, unless you're on blood pressure medications, I would take fish oil. Then for vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of those that we see less and less every year on people's panels whenever they go to get these things looked at. And so especially for myself, whenever I first came in for personal training, I was talking to Chris. I was like, hey, something's not right. And then Carrie was like, hey, let's go take a look at your blood panel. And so I bring it over there, and my vitamin D was way down where it doesn't need to be. And so vitamin D is going to help bring up some of those things. It's going to help improve like brain fog, muscle fatigue, things like that. Some of these things are going to help in recovery. Magnesium is awesome, especially whenever you need help with like sleep, recovery, all kinds of good stuff. Now hydration. Hydration is key to recovery as well. So if you're like me and you're constantly running around all day long, every day, and you've got 2 little ones running around, sometimes this is the last thing on your mind is the bottle of water in your hand. And I know for some people, lack of hydration can be like a big deciding factor on their health. So what you should be doing is drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water per day. That's hard. For me, I've got a blue cup. You probably have seen me walk around with it. I have to drink like 4 of those a day for me to hit half of my body weight in ounces of water per day. Sometimes I don't do that. Sometimes I might want to go over that, and it's okay to drink more than this. And it's okay to get slightly less than this, but to keep your hydration, you definitely want to continue drinking that water. For some people, they might need to add a little bit of like Mio or something, some flavor into their water. Put a couple slices of lemon, some fruit in there, things like that. Just give it a little bit of change in flavor, so that would be helpful. Water, coffee, tea, all of these influence your hydration levels. So keep all of your beverages 0 or low calorie. That's going to be kind of hard for a lot of people. So if you find that you're one of those people that drinks several sodas a day, maybe knock it down to like 1 less and then see how you do with that. If you do well with that, then maybe go down 1 less that next week, or kind of see what is your happy medium, what works for you. But if you're having struggles with this and you're like, I've got some questions, does this work? Is this a good option? Definitely go and talk to your coach about those things. Now, sleep and workouts. How many people have kids? How many people in here? Well, I mean, yes, some of you guys do not have kids. But how many people does your family life affect your sleep? Me. Okay, so a lot of you guys know I've got a almost 2-year-old and I've got a 3-year-old. They don't sleep through the night often, or they're like, I don't want to go to bed right now, mommy. So we've got to figure out, like, how do we work with them? How do you create a sleep schedule for you? What is your healthy sleep schedule? Stuff like that, and what's going to help you with your muscle recovery, especially after working out here in the gym. So a really poor amount of sleep for most, if not all people, is less than 5 hours. Suboptimal is 6 to 7 hours. Now, for some people, 7 hours is kind of hard. It's kind of difficult. Maybe you're staying up at night. Maybe you're on your cell phone, your cellular device, or you're watching TV or something like that. Maybe cut down on some of those electronics a couple hours before you go to bed. Go spend some quality time with your family. Our nighttime routine, I'll leave here, then I'll go home, make sure I have my stuff for dinner. I'll go pick out their clothes for the evening, make sure I set those aside. Then it's dinner time, clean the kitchen time, teeth time, book time, and then bedtime. That's so much stuff that you got to think about before bed. And if you don't prep for that, that's going to be incredibly difficult to just kind of like, oh, did I do this and this and this and this and before bed? And then suddenly it's 11 o'clock at night, and then, oh my goodness, I wake up in 5 hours. So you got to go to bed, take a shower and everything. So prepping and planning ahead of those times, making sure that you hit those markers or you hit the things that are most important to you, and save the cell phone for later. Save the TV for later. It's Game of Thrones. I know everybody loves Game of Thrones, but it's not necessary to watch that until 1 o'clock in the morning when you got work the next day. So maybe save that for your family time or your partner time, y'all's quality time together, maybe on the weekends or something like that. And then your workout and your active day, your minimum workouts. We want you guys to hit at least 3 per week in here. And then we also want you guys to hit some of your activity goals outside of here. So you're probably thinking, oh man, it's cold outside. What do I do? You can go bowling. You can go watch, you can go to the mall and take your kids and walk around a little bit and window shop and think of Christmas ideas 7 months ahead of time and think of, oh, that might be a good idea. Go see some family. When was the last time you got to see your nieces and nephews or something like that? And you're like, oh man, I really want to go see them. Go play with them. Go to the park if it's not cold outside, or even if it is cold. Go warm up, jump around, kick the ball around, things like that. You can jump rope inside. You can jump rope in your living room. You can go and clean your house. Your goal is to get some sort of active day, whether it's 10,000 steps, 30 minutes of the bike, rowing, walking around the block. We will take it. 10,000 steps a day in a switch of coming to the gym maybe that day. That can count as one of your active sessions. So it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. Now, sleep, 7 hours allows for maximum recovery. You want to be able to recover from your workouts. You want to come in, you want to work out, and then you don't want to sit and stay and be stagnant for the next couple days because like, oh my goodness, my body hurts so bad. So the best thing you can do is, for one, get quality sleep. This is going to help your muscle recovery. And then 2, stay active even though you are sore. A lot of people, they don't want to come to the gym because they're like, my body hurts so bad, but we find a way to make it work. And then once you start moving, then you realize after a warm-up, I'm like, okay, I don't really feel as bad now. So stretch those muscles out, get active with your family outside of the gym, make quality time, and find out what are your priorities, and then work around those priorities. Alcohol. This one's fun. Okay, so we all like to go out, right? Yes? Cool. We like to have a good time. How many people don't like to go out and get the drinks, but they like to make their drinks at home? I'm just telling you right now, it's so much more cost effective. And you don't want to hear that from your coach because, oh, that means I can drink at home too. But it's also good to keep in mind that we like to enjoy things. We like to go out and we like to go to restaurants, and then we like to see family. But then also we got to be cost friendly. We like to make these drinks at home. And then suddenly you see the alcohol in your cabinet, you're like, dang, kind of like a drink sounds really good right now. But it's really key to keep in mind, like, how good are those qualities of drinks? What drink can I have at home? What is a good amount of that drink to have? And this is going to be kind of helping you guide those decisions. So frozen or blended drinks, a lot of the times those come with syrups, and you got to throw some lime in there, and you got to throw some like purees and stuff like that. Those are going to be some of the highest calories per serving. And then you got your cocktails and your IPAs and then your beers. All of those are going to be in the higher calories. Then the ones that are going to be lower, going from wine to light beers to champagnes, and then your full-on Everclear. So this is a big jump. So calories per serving varies on what it is. So you mix. You're going to be mix less stuff in there, and the more pure it is, then the less calories it's going to be. Now, your next question might be, how do you count this whenever your body needs to figure out what to burn and stuff like that? Or does it fall under its own macronutrient? Yes, it does. Your body decides, what does it want to burn first? Does it want to burn what you're eating first, or does it want to burn the alcohol first? Which one is it going to choose? So alcohol is its own macronutrient, and although calories are typically converted into grams of carbs, grams of fat, or a combination when counting your macros, alcohol is going to be burned on a totally different spectrum. So it's going to choose, okay, what do I need to get rid of out of my system right now for me to be able to function? Alcohol. It needs to find that it's safe. It needs to find that balance where it can be able to function, because suddenly you're putting something into your body and then it's like, woo, what's going on here? So it's going to get rid of the alcohol first, and it's going to be like, no, carbs, fats, go away. I'm prioritizing this right now. So it's going to stop doing some of that other stuff and prioritize, okay, let's get rid of that alcohol, which means it's going to delay what are you burning. Did you eat a big cheeseburger that night that you also had a bunch of drinks? Well, it's going to get rid of the alcohol first before it goes to those other things. So it's going to delay. It's going to sit there a little bit longer. Then you're going to kind of feel yucky the next morning. I know a couple people that have been in that situation. So next, I really want to ask you guys, do you have any questions? Because I was previously a teacher, but I know we're saving those to the end.
All right, gang, now we're done with alcohol. I'll come back up. All right, so 6 weeks Healthy Habits Challenge, right? We've given you guys a spiel about it every single day in class. Just kind of giving you guys a general outline before we close things up and open it for questions. Here's the thing. I know most of your coaches have met with you. If they haven't, here's what I want you to think about on your packet. They should be attainable goals, right? They shouldn't be something unrealistic. If I sleep 4 hours a day, I'm not going to expect one of you guys to get 8 hours of sleep in that night, right? I don't expect you to eat 100% whole food if we get Whataburger every single day, right? That's just unrealistic of me as your coach to ask you to do, right? And it's unrealistic to ask of yourself. That's kind of a lot to be able to be like, oh, well, I eat fast food every day and I'm going to eat whole food for every single meal, right? The idea of this 6 weeks challenge is to create something that's sustainable. So at the end of the 6 weeks, you're not like, it's not a fad. I don't want this to be a fad thing either. You think about 75 Hard, cool, it's a cool program, but what normally happens when people get done with that? It was one extreme to another, right? So you get done with 75 Hard and you're like, yes, I lost 10 pounds. And then, a month later you put on 15, That's kind of one of those things, whereas what we're trying to create with you guys is just healthy habits. That's been the big priority with this thing. It's something that you can carry into life and teach your kids and teach your husbands or spouses or things like that. So that way it's something that, hey, this isn't like just a 6 week challenge. This is my lifestyle moving forward, right? Obviously, we're going to be tracking your habits throughout the thing. Here's what I want you to think about those as well with your track list. I want you to think about, the checks and the X's. If you have all X's in week 1 on every single goal that you and your coach set, it was kind of unrealistic, right? Maybe we should spend 15 minutes coming in and talking and reevaluating our goals and going from there. Vice versa. If everything was a check mark and it was the easiest thing you've ever done, maybe we need to step something up a little bit, right? To get you to where you want to be. Obviously, we've done the InBody before and after. Here's what I want you guys to focus on moving forward. So we're kicking it off, right? It's going to start tomorrow. But you guys have your tracking sheet as we go. Once you get done with week 1, send your coach a picture of your tracking sheet. Just saying, I'm not going to speak on all of us, but if you just put checks only, if you don't get it, don't put an X, just leave it empty. It makes it a lot less mumbo jumbo on there. So if you just leave it blank if you didn't get it, that'd be cool too. But message your coach weekly about it. Let's see what works with. You can use some of the PT time. You guys have hybrid memberships, right? You can use the personal training time to meet with your coach. But if it's something where you're like, hey, I have just a few X's on this one specific category, it's like, cool, me and you can talk about it real quick and figure out a solution. So that way we can try to combat that for week 2, right? Other things that are also going to happen, we have a Facebook group, which I know most of you are in already. That's going to be an important thing. You're going to see us coaches posting in there some helpful tips and tricks that are going to be able to make things a little bit easier for you guys and kind of understanding some of these things a little bit deeper, right? So Chris and Carrie are going to be the ones majority posting in there, kind of posting some more in-depth stuff and some things to make it more efficient for you guys. You're also going to be getting a weekly email. I believe Chris is going to be sending most of those out, but we're all going to be kind of working on the 6 pillars that we talked about with the quality of food, quantity of food, all that good mess that we have that we can put checks and X's on. And again, this is our goal for the 6 weeks is to learn sustainable, keyword sustainable habits that once you get done with the 6 weeks, we hopefully see some body fat loss and muscle mass. But the big thing is keeping it as a lifestyle as we move forward, right? So the last slide that we have is just the tracking sheet, which I know most of you have seen. We have our goals set up. You guys have viewed the presentation, so you got to check on that one. Most of you have done your in-body. Now here's that one I talked about earlier though, that kitchen makeover. That's going to be one thing that we're going to have to check off for sure. So a good idea when you get home today, if most of you have time, is to sadly go grab the ice creams, go grab the cookies, the Oreos, take it, put it in a bag, and throw it away in the trash can outside. Because you don't need it, and it's not going to help you get to where you want to be. It's not going to help your family be healthier either, eating a tub of Bluebell, even though it tastes great. Yeah, and then there's our tracking sheet. I believe that is it. Guys, you are open for Q's and A's from here.